By the late 1960s, horsepower had become a public competition. Chevrolet had the 396, the 427, and soon the 454. Ford answered with the 428 Cobra Jet. Chrysler had the 426 Hemi. Compression ratios sat above 10:1. Solid lifter cams rattled at idle. Big Holly carburetors dumped fuel through mechanical secondaries. Torque numbers were climbing fast, and driveline components were struggling to keep up. Clutch dumps at 5,000 RPM were not theoretical. They were happening every Friday night. And transmissions were breaking. Cases flexed, gear teeth chipped. Thrust loads under heavy torque pushed helical gears sideways against the case. So here's a fair question for anyone who was there. If you were running a big block in 1969, what transmission did you trust? For many Chevrolet owners, the answer became the same: the Muncie M22. What made the M22 different? The M22 did not appear out of thin air. It evolved from the standard Muncie 4-speed family. There was the M20 wide ratio, there was the M21 close ratio, and then there was the M22. On paper, the M21 and M22 looked similar. Both used a 2.20-to-1 first gear ratio. Both were close ratio designs meant for engines that made power at higher RPM. The difference was in the gears themselves. The M22 used a lower helix angle on its gear teeth. Many people call them straight-cut gears. Technically, they are not fully straight spur gears, but the reduced angle significantly changed how the load moved through the transmission. Helical gears create thrust load. Under torque, they try to push sideways. That thrust load stresses the case and internal components. By reducing the helix angle, the M22 reduced that axial thrust. Less sideways load meant better durability under high torque conditions. GM also specified stronger gear material with higher nickel content. The gear teeth were thicker. The design was aimed squarely at engines like the L78 396, the 427 big blocks, and later, the LS6 454. It was not designed for grocery runs. It was designed for torque. Now let's be precise here. The M22 was not indestructible. It was not the strongest transmission ever made. But for its time, in factory trim, it was one of the toughest manual gearboxes you could buy over the counter. That distinction matters. It was available through regular production option codes. You could order it in a Chevrolet LS6, certain Camaros, and big block Corvettes. And when paired with a 3.73 or 4.10 rear axle behind an 11:1 compression big block, it had a job to do. And it did it well. The sound and the myth. Now we get to the part that turned hardware into legend. The sound. If you have ever heard an M22 in first or second gear, you know it immediately. That pronounced whine. Not subtle, not refined. It was mechanical music. The reduced helix angle created more gear noise, especially under load. Especially in lower gears. You could hear it pulling away from a stoplight. You could hear it echoing off buildings. It sounded purposeful. Some people called it annoying. Others called it the soundtrack of real performance. So let me ask you this. Was that whine something you tried to quiet down? Or was it the sound that told you the car meant business? Driving one was physical. The shifter had weight. Engagement felt deliberate. No rubber isolation. No dual mass flywheel smoothing things out. The clutch effort depended on what you were running, but behind a big block, it was rarely light. Your left leg knew when you had been in traffic. There was nothing delicate about rowing an M22. It did not apologize for being mechanical, and that honesty is part of why it stayed in people's memory, the truth nobody talks about. Now let's balance the story. The M22 could break. Hard drag strip launches on slicks could damage them. Case flex under extreme horsepower builds was real. Driver error destroyed more than a few. Missed shifts at high RPM. Aggressive clutch setups. Poor shimming during rebuilds. All of it mattered. And as power levels climbed in the aftermarket world, the original factory case reached its limits. It was strong for its intended environment. Factory big block torque on street tires. Start adding modern sticky rubber and heavily modified engines, and things changed. It also was not the smoothest gearbox. Compared to later designs like the Tremec T56, the M22 feels agricultural. But that comparison misses context. It was built for an era when refinement was secondary to durability. And here is another debate worth having. Did the M22's reputation grow because of how many survived, or because of how many failed dramatically and were remembered? Sometimes legend is built from both. Why it became legend. So why did this particular transmission become the one everyone remembers? Part of it is simple availability. It was a factory option. RPO M22. You could check the box. That matters. It was not an obscure aftermarket swap. It was legitimate production hardware. It showed up in Chevrolet LS6 models, in big block Camaros, in Corvettes with serious engines under the hood. It became associated with the highest performance versions of Chevrolet's lineup. Then there were the street stories, cars that survived years of hard use, cars that outlived engines, gearboxes that kept working after the paint faded and the interior cracked. Whether every story is perfectly accurate is beside the point. The reputation stuck. The nickname RockCrusher did not come from a GM marketing department. It came from enthusiasts, from the sound, from the feel, from the perception that it could take punishment and keep moving. By the mid-1970s, the muscle car era was winding down. Compression ratios dropped. Insurance rates climbed. Emissions regulations tightened. The Muncie plant stopped production in 1974. The Borg-Warner Super T10 took over in many applications, but the M22 had already cemented its place. Collectors today care deeply about matching numbers transmissions. An original date coded M22 behind an LS6 454 adds measurable value. Reproduction versions are still produced because demand never disappeared. But beyond the paperwork and casting numbers, the legend lives in memory. The feel of grabbing second gear under load, the whine rising with RPM, the mechanical honesty of it. Which brings us to another honest question. Do modern manual transmissions feel too refined compared to something like the M22? Today's gearboxes shift smoother. They isolate noise. They protect drivers from themselves. But they rarely feel raw. And maybe that is what people miss. The M22 was not perfect. It was not silent. It was not smooth. And it was never truly unbreakable. But it was built for torque in a time when torque ruled the street. When compression ratios were high, camshafts were aggressive, and big blocks made their power low and hard. It was designed to survive that environment, not to pamper the driver, not to isolate noise, but to transfer force. It earned its reputation the old-fashioned way, through use, not advertising, through clutch dumps, missed shifts, late-night street runs, and long highway pulls. Thousands of drivers felt it firsthand. The whine in first and second gear, the solid weight of the shifter moving through the gate, the faint vibration through the lever under load. It reminded you that gears were meshing, that steel was working, that mechanical parts were engaged in a direct conversation with your right foot. There was no software smoothing things out, no traction control stepping in, no electronic rev limiter protecting you from yourself. The M22 was a direct mechanical link between engine and rear axle, and maybe that is why it still matters. So here is the question. If you could row one gearbox again from the muscle car era, would it be the M22? Because horsepower may get the headlines, but driveline components earn the respect.